Port Adelaide's most impressive performances of the season. Pope will get the final kick of the game. A powerful fourth quarter surge helps Port Adelaide to their second win of 2024. 8:10.58 the power. Carlton 3:5.23 in front of a raucous home crowd.
Alrighty, hello and welcome to the CREEDCAST. My name is Dave. Thank you for joining us all, as always, as we are getting into now just the nitty-gritty of the AFLW season. That is what we have to review, which is lots of fun. Obviously, we would have preferred to be reviewing a grand final as well, but it is lots of fun to be reviewing the ladies as they are coming away from this weekend. The second part of round 5, which is really annoying to try to compartmentalize in your notes, because I'm looking for round 5 stats, and round 5 Port have played twice, and it's a whole mess, which the AFL hopefully will fix one day. But the back end of round 5, the Port Adelaide ladies dominated, beating Carlton 8:10.58 to 3:5.23. It was a really fun game to watch, and we're looking forward to chatting about it. But before we get to that, we thought we'd just touch on a few of the other events of the weekend and the week as it's proceeded, just a few list management things with Port Adelaide or decisions of players that we're potentially targeting and whatnot. But first of all, Jamie, it sucks that we weren't there, but it was kind of a wet squib of a game in the end. But what did you think about the grand final that we saw on Saturday that saw the Frizzy Lions get away with a comfortable 60-point win?
Yeah, g'day to you, g'day to everyone. Yeah, wet squib. Yeah, blowout. Not a record-breaking grand final, unfortunately, although I'm sure a lot of us were cheering for one at half-time and three-quarter time. Yeah, disappointing, and unfortunately disappointing for Sydney fans. Well, the broader AFL community seeing another smashing. A couple of years out of the past 3 grand finals. And Sydney, yeah. So it is interesting, though, if we're kind of comparing Port Adelaide and its fan base and its attitude towards finals, and then Sydney and its fan base at the moment, because there's a lot of similar themes going around. It's just the source topic, whether it be not being able to win a grand final on their behalf, not being able to make a grand final on our behalf. But really interesting kind of conversations and attitudes across the board, which is enough to make me crack a smile. But as a neutral, you obviously want a good grand final because it's the final day of the men's calendar, and it's supposed to be the grandest day, and you want a good contest because everyone likes to watch good footy. But it just wasn't that. Brisbane turned it on, and really, again, interestingly enough, Sydney looked like we did against them the week before, which is really, really strange. And you obviously you want to make a grand final because you want to give yourself a shot, and once you get there, anything could or would or should happen. But I think there's a lot of Port Adelaide supporters who probably think that we might have just been marching to our demise if we had made it, because Brisbane looked fantastic, to pay them credit, and it's a good story for football as a whole. Just what they've had to do, obviously losing last year in heartbreaking fashion, but then the bumps along their road this year. So in that regard, it was nice. A lot of the side stories that always come about around premiership teams are heartwarming. If in that regard, it was nice, but the game itself was, nothing to write home about.
Yeah, their journey this year has been really interesting. With they started 0-3 and then were 2-5. I feel like, and really, it was the addition of the great Stewie Dew that really changed everything, which is what I hold on to.
Yes,
try to inject yourself into every conversation as a Port Adelaide fan. And I'm like, it's Stuart Dew. Is he
Well,
coming on
and
board?
tonight's rumor from Channel 9 has put out there that Stuart Dew might be on the radar for Port Adelaide Football Club. So, yeah, if there's any substance to that rumor, then yeah, bring it on.
I absolutely love it. Yeah, and he's obviously a cult favorite, and just a favorite around the AFL community at this point with how he performed in the 2008 grand final as well. But yeah, the finals that they played in the epic finals. I mean, obviously their first final against Carlton, they kind of got handed the Carlton team at home at Brisbane's
That was
home.
so banged up.
Yeah, that was so banged up. But then the comeback against GWS, the comeback against Geelong, combine those two deficits, it's almost 70 points that they were down by to those two teams. Combined deficits, there was 44 and 25, I think, was the major deficits that they were at against GWS and Geelong. But yeah, so it's kind of like we look back at our St Kilda prelim in 2004, which we'll eventually get to on the Patreon. But that felt like the actual grand. When you look back at it, sometimes you watch that one more than you watch the grand final, even though the grand final was actually close and an epic contest up until a certain point. But yeah, this one for Brisbane was just a smashing halfway through that second quarter. So, which is sad to see, just as a neutral. But I kind of just started packing up some stuff to move to my place. Watch the second half. Watch the second half on my laptop with the hotspot there on 7plus, which was just a shout out to 7 for that they need to make that platform a lot more stable, because I think they were battling with a little bit of overload there because it was really having some issues.
Bit of traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just like, there's a connection problem, retry, which is nothing on my end. So it's just like you just need to refresh, which is just annoying. But otherwise, a bit of a, disappointing for the neutral, but cool stories out for Brisbane. I've always thought Fagan kind of had a similar run to Ken in the fact that just not quite getting it done. He finally made it there last year, but and we're unlucky to lose. I know there is, in the last few years, it does shade it a little bit with not casting any guilt on, but there's still that Hawthorn story in the background, which he's very much a part of with the the what is it now, going to federal court. I can't remember where it's at now at the moment, but yeah, there's still some stuff to play out with the Clarkson and Fagan and Hawthorn historical racism allegations, whatever you want to call them. So that does dampen it a little bit. But just on the surface, I always thought he seemed like a similar story to Ken, in the nice bloke that gets a team up and about, but not quite there. Having got them off the canvas a few years back. So cool. It looked it was really cool moments with him and Lee Matthews and embracing and whatnot. So yeah, cool stories always in these things. But a bit of a game that not many people apart from Brisbane fans will be rewatching on. Won't be a KO classic or anything like that in years to come.
Yeah, an old friend of mine back in my McDonald's days, she's an avid Brisbane fan. She was born up in Queensland, up in the outer Brisbane area. And yeah, we always had a healthy and respectful kind of, a jovial rivalry. But yeah, always happy kind of when each other's teams are doing well. So I obviously, gave her a congratulations and obviously said that I was very jealous of her. She went. Brisbane fans will be lapping it up. They've obviously broken somewhat of a drought for themselves as well. Good win for them. But just going back on what you said about our 04 finals, and when you said it, it made me think and realize that I think I've actually watched the prelim final more than the 04 grand final, as think of it.
I have myself, especially because I didn't get to go to the grand final, obviously, but I was at that prelim and being the game it was, my memories of being there. It's just, it is the one that I just throw on more. Like it'd be similar, but often it'll start like I'm going to watch both, and then I only end up getting to the prelim. So so it's probably been watched 5 or 6 times more over the last 20 years. So hopefully we've got some new additions maybe next year to our DVD collections. But Brisbane fans got to add one to the collection this year, which, as I said, if you're a fan of the club, you're going to love a 60-point win, because it does stamp your dominance on the year. And obviously makes it a fun day, because the entire second half is celebration start. Although I know if I was in the moment, I'd be like the comeback will come eventually. Like you don't realize just how comfortably you're winning when you're in the moments until you kind of afterwards, probably in those tense moments.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
as neutrals, whereas
Definitely.
us as neutrals are like, well, this is fucking over at halftime. When you're the fan, you're
Oh,
just like,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Well, it's funny. I remember saying to a friend of mine who was hosting a little Gaz that in the first quarter when Sydney got those couple up, and I was a
mm,
bit distracted, to be fair. I wasn't really locked in, although I was watching it, just conversations and whatnot with
mm.
friends, and I was like, "Oh, Brisbane needs a settler here," and like I can just remember saying that at the time. And then the second quarter rolls on, and I was like, "Oh, Sydney really need a settler here. Like it's pretty bad." Yeah,
Yeah.
but never came.
It was funny. There's a few people, obviously Port fans. Our main interest in any of these games is when they start to blow out, is like get to 120 at least. And I think,
Yeah, yeah. Alapate Carlisle put it out on
yeah,
Twitter, like 120 question mark. And yeah, it was just like, yes, we only need because Brisbane becomes we in that
oh
aspect.
yeah, oh yeah.
We only need 10 goals, to nothing.
It really does stamp just how bad that day in '07 was when you think about it that way. It was funny. A few people, I think, Alapate put it out there. I think Alessiani, like from the pair, put 120 question mark as well. And because Brisbane actually their final score was exactly 120, a few people went,
Yeah,
that's not what we
yeah.
meant."
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. That was my thoughts immediately, like post siren, at the end.
Well, I guess at least they didn't hit 119 as their score, because that would have just been posted everywhere on the socials. But yeah,
Mm.
one day.
Every Adelaide Crows podcast, Twitter would have, surely
Yeah,
made comment of that.
yeah, and I just would have avoided that godforsaken app for a day. Anyway, enough about that. Just a few, not any major news in the. I guess it's just a few as we barrel towards trade period, or it's already. Is the trade period started? It
No,
hasn't. No, it starts next week and finishes the week after. It's just all the
yeah.
back and forth of rumors at the moment.
Much like AFL media and AFL reporting just gets like longer and longer and wraps around
mm,
more of the year. Trade period also,
yeah,
funnily enough, just gets bigger and bigger every year.
because trade radio started, I
Um,
was just like, wait, does it start? Because I didn't think it started this week, but then like there's that much talk. And because I've been busy with work, I just hadn't locked in on it much.
mm,
But I keep hearing there was obviously coming from just interesting. I think one of the main posts was like coming to the Crow. I can't remember. There was something sexual innuendo about how they posted the announcement that he was going to the Crows that made my 12-year-old self giggle. But he was one of our targets, one that we were interested in from GWS. He's nominated the Crows. Perryman, who's another big target, he's nominated Collingwood, which I think is his boyhood club. Yeah, no problem with that. If he wanted to come with, but obviously already we talked about last week that Jack Lukosius has nominated Port Adelaide, so that's a big get as long as we obviously get the deal done. I think the big thing wrapped up in all this, and we talked about it off air briefly beforehand, before going to recording. And I think you mentioned that Cal Toomey has mentioned this today, that the Perryman and Cumming not nominating Port Adelaide does add that wrinkle to the Dan Houston negotiations going the other way, in that Port might be more amicable at trade tables, or be more willing to do a deal if they know they've got some quality coming in those, that's more applicable to those positions. But Dan Houston being that, Cumming and Perryman both dominating other clubs, makes Port's, strong negotiating position probably already little bit more hesitant, unless we get the whatever King's ransom that Port Adelaide deems to be a King's ransom is. That's what they're going to be looking for more than they were probably prior to knowing exactly what the movements of these players are. I'm assuming. Well, I'm just interested in, is that how you kind of read it yourself? I know
yeah.
it's always hard when reporters say things, you kind of take that on board, but that's always been my read, that our willingness to deal will be based on what we got coming in. Which at this stage
Yeah.
it seems like it's probably just Jack Lukosius is the big one.
Yeah, yeah. And it does make sense to kind of hold a firmer stance with the Dan Houston negotiations because, yeah, it was all predicated on us perhaps getting a thicker haul in terms of free agents or trades. And while this year's draft is touted to be quite a thick draft with talent, and our list management team does want to get back into it, it's short term, medium term versus long term a little bit, perhaps. And yeah, because I believe they released the list of free agents for 2025 today, and I haven't had a look at it, but because if hypothetically, if we hold Dan Houston to his contract this season, it's going to go around next season unless something really strange happens. So maybe they hold him to his contract for another year and then look at who they can bring in next season to kind of replace him. But yeah, it still means that we miss out on some top end talent this year, which look, I don't know anything really about the draft crop, so whether we can cope without tapping into some of it, or can find another way to increase our positioning,
well, if you listen
or lower positioning, depending on the perspective.
You listen to the conspiracy theorists on Twitter. We just park an MG in one of the mum's driveways, and pick up the first pick next year.
Yeah. Depending on who you ask, the people who would say that, I would definitely not enter into any conversations with. They're definitely out there.
Oh yeah, no, I've had it. I've had it in my mentions plenty from some now blocked accounts over the years. So,
you love conjecture and conspiracy and
See, on the serious
non-factual things,
just high in the sky stuff. Yeah, on the serious end, like it would be nice to get into the draft. But I think that's where the list management's in a really interesting position because they're really, really trying to, now that we've got, Butters, Rosie, 24, 23, 24, 25, a lot of the other, like it's a really, really interesting age profile on a squad because obviously Dixon retiring drops a little bit of the average age. Boak hanging around keeps that up a little bit, but then you've got your Alir, who's 29, 30, I think, going into next year. He's got a couple injuries aside, knock on wood. He's going to be fine for a few years. It's generally trending young, but also starting to build the years and experience. And you've got Bergman around for another year, but then there's a little bit, that conjecture is going to build next year unless anything happens there. So yeah, while it would be nice to get into the draft, it's like whether list management is also looking at, you kind of want guys that are ready now a little bit as well, because you think this list has some potential to continue to do. I mean, everyone this year thought some thought we were not going to finish in the 8. We ended up finishing top 2. So there's clearly some talent in this list, but it's developing a lot. We've got some young talent to develop too. There's guys there that are still trying to break in. Your likes of Ollie Lord, who had an interesting year. I think a little bit too much has been made of the fact he didn't break in as well as some might have hoped this year.
I agree.
I think it's just tall players take longer, and it was an interesting year for our forward line too. So
he broke a bone in his leg, and it clearly impacted him for the rest of the season. I'm not overly concerned with Ollie Lord because by all reports his preseason was fucking immense. So him. We've already spoken about some of our halfback replacements on the topic of Dan Houston as well, who are also young. You mentioned Miles Bergman. We've spoken about Sin. We've spoken about Logan Evans, who's 19 next year. So we're not starved of youth. And no matter where we are in the draft order this year, we're still going to bring some young players in, and like as top heavy as it's apparently is this season, no club is built just on first round draft picks. So and a lot of the guns of the competition aren't just from the first round of the draft either. So yeah, again, we've spoken about our confidence in our list management team and our development of young players.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it can be quite easy at this time of the year to kind of, you know, Zach Galifianakis in Hangover at the blackjack table about everything. Like, well, if this happens, then we should do this, this, and like, it's already happening on Twitter. And to be honest, yeah, I don't have the energy for it.
There's no perfect track. There's whatever track is presented to you, and you do the best with the hand you dealt. Again, like blackjack table or whatever.
Well, Geelong have hardly been in the first round for years, and they keep challenging.
Yeah, and then they drop, guys like Brandon Parfitt are getting dropped out of that team. So it's who was a high, yeah,
and
he was he kind of broke into that side and was a fairly consistent part of that side a couple of years ago, and then and some of those players that have pushed him out have been players that were not top draft picks, as you said. So yeah, there's no perfect way through. It all comes down to a lot of development and all those things as well. So a lot to play out, and obviously with trade period not even started yet, plenty more to go, and obviously it's a 2-week saga. Just on that, I think we'll probably aim to just do our season review after, like the week after the trade period ends, just so then we can wrap some review of that kind of whole period into that. So yeah, you're probably looking at 3 weeks from now. We may roughly that we might do a season review for the men's side, wrap up some of the trade period and list management decisions in there as well. So that'll be a nice big episode. Does David crack a red bottle of red wine on that one? Get a little drunk? We'll
tune in to find out.
Just teasing forward for a few weeks now, anyway. But unless you have anything else on the men's side and all that, then we can crack into some fun stuff from the W.
Yeah, look, pretty thin on the men's side of things. We've obviously, added to our D list. Our list changes. I can't remember if Tom McCallum was added last time we chatted. Luke Kelly's not being renewed, but all of this we can, like, again, it's all just bits and pieces at the moment. So it's probably better off we leave it until it's all said and done in that regard.
Yeah, and full spectrum review in a few weeks. But then that means we can get into and give the women the love they deserve with the incredible win they had on Sunday afternoon down at Alberton. I couldn't quite make it down there. I had a hell of a weekend, and I'm really disappointed I couldn't, because it was a great win for the 1,700 odd that did make it down to Alberton on Sunday afternoon. Shit time slot as well, but as I mentioned off the top, 8-10-58 to 3-5-23, dominating 35-point win. That was really built off the back of a game style that we've been kind of watching other teams do to us at times.
Yes.
Like a lot more direct, a lot more free flowing. There's still some elements of those moments where, a dropped mark or a misplaced disposal or just a moment of, but they kind of didn't fucking care. They just kept on going with it anyway, and it yielded results, and the pressure built, and it kind of overwhelmed Carlton, who were missing a couple of players, but it's also forgetting that we're missing our first ever draft pick, who was the Rising Star winner of our first season. Our captain, obviously, and Janelle Cuthbertson's missing. Kirsty Lamb was missing in this one, and all Australian midfielder, she's missing this one and the next one at least, I think, with concussion protocols. So we were missing a few Australians in there. It's an incredible win with all those facts considered, and incredibly, it could have been more. Though the 8-10 looks inaccurate. It's actually 8-6 as far as our goal scoring efforts. 4 of those behinds were rushed, so reasonably accurate. 4 rush behinds is just a telling sign of pressure and forward 50 pressure. But really, really impressed with it. I know you watched the replay last night. How much fun did you have with that? Because I know how much fun you had because you texted me about it. Tell the people how much fun.
Oh no, I had a lot of fun. Yeah, I actually caught the last 5 minutes of the game live, and while that was impressive, I was very, very keen to watch the replay. So yes, I did last night, and very impressed for a lot of the reasons that you just said. Yeah, we seem to be coming in with a game plan, and it was a nice day for football. We came in with a game plan that, yeah, like you said, that we've just seen two teams kind of do to us. Uh, it's just effort from the get-go. And was it Gemma Houghton in the post-match mentioned that they'd started slow the previous two games, which we'd also commented on. And so their focus was to come out and start strong. And I thought they did absolutely well. I thought the intensity when we didn't have the ball was great. I thought the effort for teammates trying to link up when a player of ours had the ball and trying to provide an option for them was good. I thought our marking was much better as a whole, and I've got some stats with that, which I'll touch on after. And we put it on the scoreboard. We had another opportunity to play a team that was in a similar position to us. And again, it was good to show them and show the competition what we're made of. And now we've inevitably jumped them. So, yeah, really entertaining. Just an even spread of contribution too. Like there were some clear standouts, but I don't think I could pinpoint anyone who didn't come to play from our side. Like everyone had their moments and everyone made an impact. But just on the first quarter in particular, it ended up Carlton had the lead at quarter time, but the free kick that they got that ended in the goal, I thought was very harsh on Ebony O'Day. To me, it looked like she got a clear handball out and she was called for a throw. So,
yeah, she looked a little, I think from memory, she looked a little incredulous about it as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she did. She had a great game herself just on her.
I think I put it out on Twitter. I think I'd absolutely be having my family plan my funeral if she tackled me. She is ferocious, and we've talked about it plenty already. And she's been like,
I liked your tweets on the day, especially now that I've seen the game as a whole. Yeah, like we said in the Richmond breakdown, she's uncompromising. So she sees the ball, and good luck to an opposition player in her way.
Yeah, she's one of those players I think feel like if you're around her, and she has a pretty hard task, I think, playing on Vesio, and she was certainly matched up on some pretty good players down there in that Carlton forward line. So she had a job herself, but then she just was, she's one of those players that if you're an opposition player and she's around, you take possession of the ball, you must be hearing footsteps already. Like, because if you know, obviously, if you've done your forward scouting, then you know Day's about to wrap you up and possibly send you into next week. All head injury awareness aside, just as a saying from the yesteryear, she's gonna make you earn it. So yeah, it was interesting. It is interesting that Carlton did kind of get. They got the jump early, but we wrested control back pretty well, I think. We just didn't get the scoreboard pressure quite in that first quarter, but I think our dominance was starting to show in that first quarter. Obviously, we're 2 points down at quarter time, but it kind of felt like we were pushing against the damn wall and it was going to break. I thought the start was, it was... Because going back to from this round 5 match to the previous round 5 match that we played, beyond the first
week 5, we bookended it week 5.
Beyond the first quarter against Richmond, I actually think we were right. We talked about it on the last review. Go back to that one if you want to listen to our thoughts on Richmond. Just use the timestamps because it's about 2.5 hours into that podcast. But a lot of the stats in the Richmond game end up like our inside 50 entries. Like Richmond dominated us in the first quarter and got out to their 2.5 3-goal break and dominated the inside 50s. But by the end of the game, we'd won the inside 50s against Richmond, who are a good side, who are currently sitting in, as I scroll down my thing and pad, they're sitting in 5th right now. So Richmond, after a quarter and a half, we actually kind of had the territorial dominance on them, getting the forward 50 entries, just not quite finishing, but we brought the margin back from, I think it got out to maybe 30. I think we ended up losing by 20 odd or something like that. So we just didn't quite make it tell on the scoreboard some of that dominance, but we did win some statistical categories in the end against Richmond that we were down on quite significantly after the first quarter. We kind of didn't let that happen against Carlton. We actually we started exerting some of that dominance early, and then obviously in the second quarter, just want to touch. I mean, we'll get to player votes, but I guess I'm teasing forward a little bit. But Gemma Houghton, I said last week, barometer. This week again was she kind of has that ability to. She takes the team and it's just real cliche, but kind of put the team on her back, like because everyone goes with her. I think when she does those runs and those contested marks, and whether it be taking that mark and then getting up and wheeling around and turning towards goal.
Yeah, that
Even
was
that,
awesome.
that was such a great goal, and great Selly to go with it as well. Even when she took that run and she burnt her opposition player, whoever it was, took the first bounce. Unfortunately, she started to change direction and take a bounce and kind of
And
fluffed
just
it.
kind of just drop it
Yeah.
on the floor. Yeah.
But it's all that kind of stuff. I don't know I'd love to talk to some of the other players that are in the vicinity and just go, what does that feel like when you see Gemma Houghton just fucking turn on just everything she's doing? That must just make him just go, fuck. I mean, obviously a lot of them are playing hard anyway. Like Ebony O'Day's playing hard from day, like, minute dot, Maloney, all those contested beast Dowrick. But Houghton she does like, I don't know.
There's a lot of youth, and yeah,
I
they
was just
would
letting,
all just
I'm
go,
doing it.
"Whoa,
Yeah.
look at this!"
Yeah, because she's an two-time All Australian. She's 27, 28. Like she is, she's got 5, 6, 7 years on a lot of these girls. We know that. I think what was it against Richmond? I think 12 of the starting team were between 18 and 21. So if Gemma's, I'm forgetting her exact age, but I think she was mid-20s when she came to us. So we're talking mid to late 20s. She's got a few years on these, right in her prime, as far as footy goes, but. Yeah, she's going to be. They must be just watching her and just seeing kind of the efforts and obviously she's finishing off with goals too. She did it against Richmond. She's done it this week again. 2 first half goals. I mean, she finished with 15 disposals, but 10 of those are in the first half. And she kicked those couple of goals in the first half as well, and really set the platform for then the kind of the party that took over eventually in the second half, which was incredible to watch, especially those last few minutes when. I think I tweeted at one point. I was like, "Oh, this person's I think it was Piper Window's goal. I think I said sealed the deal, but then it was just like, oh no, Ash Saint
And
scored
then
now, and then I can't remember who even scored. It wasn't
Maloney kicked the
Yeah,
last
Maloney.
one from with a great shepherd on the line from Ash Saint.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, enabled it to go through. But yeah, like just going back to Gemma's goal where she marked it and then wheeled around, burnt her opponent. That came off the back of a really great passage of play where we linked up a couple of times and then we got the mark inside 50. So I think I absolutely agree that Gemma Houghton is a barometer of the team and she puts the fear into the opposition that you want. So get it in her area. I thought as a whole, what we did well was get our better players into the game, which is something that we discussed against Richmond. Like a lot of our better users of the ball found the ball, and it had a positive impact. On top of Shanae Goody having a return to some of her better form from like the first week in particular. Piper Window, like you said, Molly Brooksby continued her good week 5 form. And just some of those other role players, like everybody just lifted that extra few percent and it greatly impacted our fortunes on the aggregate.
I even think again.
So yeah,
sorry, I was just you just role players too that I keep coming back to because of the fact they have just come in as injury replacements, like Caitlin Wenland and Tegan Germach. Again,
Germac.
Yeah, it's funny, just a side note, because you've told me how it's meant to be, but then every time I go to say it, I'm like, wait, which one is it? So Jamie's just going to be correcting me for the rest of the time that Tegan at Germac is at Port Adelaide, which, she has some moments where she drops a mark or something like that, and you go, oh, that's a little bit of that inexperience. But overall, her effort and she actually does have some really clean moments. And she's genuinely,
absolutely. Well, the 2 marks that
positive.
she did take were contested.
Yeah.
So I've been really impressed with her as a role player from round 1. To cut you off there, yeah.
I cut you off first, so it's kind of like some
No, you cut me off. No, you cut me off.
We just want to both talk about all the good players. I thought Caitlin Pope was getting around a bit as well. Like it's just it was really one of those games for a lot of the unsung heroes, as well as obviously the leading kind of the high draft picks and stuff. Which, by the way, just to mention because you brought up Brooksby, She was nominated for Rising Star for round 5, which I guess takes in probably.
Yeah,
I
it was
assume
from
that,
the Richmond game.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
the week 5. So yeah, when she got nominated, I checked her stats and I was like, these aren't what they posted. But then, yeah, obviously it's the week 5
Mhm.
Rising Star nomination, and it's based on her performance versus Richmond at the start of week 5. So, happy, absolutely, yeah,
Oh, and she was
happy and
very
proud.
good.
We've got 2 now in 5 weeks.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's an awesome sign going forward, and congratulations to her.
Yeah. And, there's the likes of Piper Window, who was the highest draft pick this year, hasn't been nominated yet. But, I mean, she keeps going the way she's going.
She's building for sure.
Yeah, every week she seems to grow in, because I think it was probably a couple of weeks ago I talked to you about how she was getting possessions or marks, but then she was kind of I think she handballed off to Ange Foley and let like a few others take kicks. Whereas this game she was really like, I mean, her meters gain numbers up there. I think third best on ground. Just looking at it quickly in front of me.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I hadn't actually taken note of that. Yeah, she's second best for us.
Sorry, yeah, second best. Yeah, I was looking at Ashley Saint above her in disposals, but yeah, she's slightly shaded her on meters gain. So yeah, it's yeah, like that is a real growth from even a couple of weeks ago where she was seeding some of those opportunities to push the ball forward.
Mm.
Her
And I
contest,
think they're trying to find her best position. I
yeah,
think she's played a bit all over the ground thus far.
hmm
Um, but yeah,
yeah,
regardless of that, yeah, she's still building into
yeah. I
the
mean, she's
season,
she's
which is
growing in
now halfway
confidence.
done.
Yeah, because she's going to be growing confidence with every match she plays in the W, and just be like, well, the top W league, and find kind of that she can, because I assume coming in as an 18-year-old, probably like the men's too, like, but particularly in a competition that's still growing and kind of finding its feet as a competition that coming in, you know, it must be an interesting experience. And I think she did look a little bit, you could see the talent, just a little bit like, caught in lights kind of things at moments over the first couple of weeks. But this was the last couple of weeks. Well, she has been getting, her contested and tackle game's been always been good. Like she's getting in
Yeah.
amongst it. But this one was the one
Hmm.
where she took it beyond that and actually started getting, meaningful possessions as far as, or meaningful disposals, so to speak. I mean, she operated at 50%, which, as we've talked about in W, is reason if you're getting above 50% and more, then you're starting to really have a tangible,
That's
particularly.
that's where that's probably where you want your ground floor to be
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
women's game. Found some healthy improvements from a lot of her teammates in that regard,
mm,
which was even better to see. It's just it's one of those games where multiple facets of our game were in an improved order, comparing to particularly the previous 2 matches that we'd played,
mm,
albeit this game in perfect weather. And you think of a game like the Kangaroos game, good opponent and wet, so a
yeah,
bit hard to get your whole game in order. But
mm,
yeah, um, this game in particular had a lot of improvements in a lot of key areas that we've commented on, that I've criticized in part recently.
mm.
So, were you? Did you have something else to say
I got plenty to say about different parts, not anything
on the
in,
point on the point
no,
that you were just
no, not
on?
there. I was already looking ahead to just some. I find it fascinating looking at some of the overall team stats that they kind of tell the story of the game. Is like overall usage of the ball. We were minus 50 on disposals. Exactly the same amount of kicks between the teams though, 156, 156. But
Yeah, and
um,
they
they
made
just
note of the disposal difference in commentary, and
mm,
just basically saying that Carlton are forced to overpossess it, while maybe also trying, maybe their game plan is built on high possession, but it just wasn't working for them, and it was
mhm.
playing into our hands. On top of the pressure that we were putting them under, some of those extra possessions are probably just trying to get it out of
Yeah,
pressure, and our closing of space and our tackling was fantastic. And yeah, so while some of their Carlton's stats look good, it doesn't tell the whole story. Uh, Clearly, we won quite convincingly.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Um, So I was getting back to my stats here. There was a few of the ones that in particular I thought. I mean, I think it just shows that our plan to go more direct and just force the issue on Carlton, because I think we've realised that our contested game and some of that stoppage stuff is okay if we just need to get the ball forward and with, and as you said, getting the right ball used in the right areas to make that happen, because we've kind of tried that when we were, the defensive stuff, but we just gets caught at between halfback and maybe midfield and just not having the right players in position. But
it's all chaos.
We got past that, and then we're able to get inside 50, which inside 50s we dominated 40-24, which is really good. We exceeded
so for
our
all the
average.
disposals that they had,
yeah.
versus how many inside 50s they generated, that tells a bit of a story in itself.
Yeah, and it was really around the stoppage, because we lost center clearances 4-7, but it's a low scoring game, so not a huge deal. At times, the center clearance can end up being an issue if you keep letting them get it inside their forward 50 and then they hold it there. But because we were plus 10 at the stoppage with 27-17, we just kind of exerted our dominance there. And then that's when we were getting the ball forward, getting it out of stoppage, getting a kick forward, and suddenly we're, getting up our half forward line, and then and having a decent success in keeping it in there and finding goal scoring opportunities or finding scoring opportunities to the point of actually us scoring 8-6. But even the as I said earlier, the rush behinds kind of shows just how deep we were getting it at times and finding opportunities, and Carlton was just having to take it over the line to really deal with it. Yeah, turnovers. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go on. No, you go.
I was going to say turnovers as well was one where we were cleaner with the it's only -5. I guess +5 in turnover. We won turnovers by 5. It's kind of doing the golf score thing where you're like, no, less is more, less is good. It's kind of like the AFL men's season. We've brought it up a lot, and I like to bring it up. Turnovers is just one of those areas where it's never too much of a discrepancy. Or if it is, it really tells the story. But it just does tell. Generally, if you're turning over the ball less, then that means that your pressure's probably, you're putting them under pressure more, and then you're actually using the ball better. And it's just it does tell the story of a lot of the game, because turnovers are when the ball is your side is spread the wrong way and the ball can go back quick, and that's when you scored on. So the fact that we're cleaner in possession, had less of the ball, which does help with turnovers as well. But I just think it just shows that there's a lot of improvement in just how we use the ball, and all these numbers kind of bear that out. Less turnovers, the fact we had less of the ball but had more decisive possessions with them, getting the marks inside 50. Because I think we only took 25 marks for the game to their 45, but we took 8 marks inside 50 to 2, which is just an incredible stat.
Yeah.
To be -20 on marks overall, but +6 inside 50. It's that's all you.
It's amazing, isn't it?
That's give me. I mean, I guess don't give me that every game, but I would, because if you're taking 8 marks inside 50 to 2 in every game, you're probably winning most of those games.
Well, it's just I looked it out, because we obviously discussed marks off the back of the Kangaroos and Richmond games and put it in some sort of focus and how it can positively impact our gameplay as a whole, and just relieving that pressure from everyone in certain moments of the game. So I obviously looked at the fact that we had 25 marks, 9 of which were contested, and 8 inside 50, which was great. I totally blanked the fact that Carlton took 45 marks for 2 marks inside 50, and only 3 of theirs were contested. But just to draw it back on ours, I went back and looked at the Richmond game just as a comparison, and versus Richmond, we had 19 marks, and 1 was inside 50, and only 2 were contested. So we've increased upon that, and funnily enough, our game as a whole looked in good order, because it does when you're marking the ball all across the ground, you can actually build up chains of possession and scoring chains as well. So I went back. There's a lot. I looked at all the marks across the other matches. Like we only took 8 marks versus the 13 for the Kangaroos. We took 34 marks versus Freo's 38 in our last home game at Alberton. So a high marking game, and maybe the stats as a whole suggests that we maybe let that one slip a little bit. And that's probably the thought across a lot of people, definitely between us two in that game. We definitely, the wind on that day definitely got in our heads a little bit. And then we played to kind of save it rather than win it. We had 29 marks versus the Dogs 30, funnily enough, 4 contested versus their 6 contested. And then we had 33 marks versus the Crows 37. So I guess what it shows is when we're getting it at a similar level to other sides, we're either putting in great efforts challenging the good teams. And then when we're getting it in good order against teams in a similar position or lower than us, that we're really making them pay. Because, again, we commented on the fact that we've got the height now, whereas we didn't a couple of years ago. And we've got the talent around that. We should be taking marks, and we should be that should be flowing on to better results. We brought in Levicki, which was an interesting choice, I thought. Probably to try and enact that type of game plan where we could expose Carlton for height. And she took a great contested mark to get our scoring underway. And I think she had 4 scoring involvements in the end herself. So I was of the opinion that she may not get back in if we go with a Schultz Saint kind of combo in the ruck, and we did. But then, if it was up forward and Levicki was in the area, she took the ruck. So we're really, really spreading that load. And it's and these are some little aspects of the AFLW that you're kind of forced to look at the game in a different way to the men's game, which is great, in of itself. Because the men's game, while it can be the elite of the elite, and it's highly skilled and it's high scoring and stuff like that, you can kind of get a bit not deer in headlights, but you kind of at a circus a little bit. It's or at the Royal Adelaide show. It's just the bright lights and there's shit going on everywhere.
It's a pinball machine sometimes, is what the men's game is.
Definitely. And in some regards, in the women's game can be, especially if we're playing that kind of, early quarters versus Richmond type of thing where it's just hat kick, and Kangaroos. But, there's just some aspects where you're just looking for different things in the women's game, which I like because, it's just different. It's good.
There's some things when it comes down to with kicks being a little bit shorter at times, just by average. Sometimes when it gets caught, like possession, territory possession is more important, I think, and how you gain that and keep that. But then it does come down to just some good ball users. I mean, we've seen again some of the best teams we've played against. Whether it be, I always go back to the Crows one earlier this year, not to give them too much love, but when you see the likes of some of the ball users they have and how clean they are and how quick they are with their feet and their ball use, you can see kind of that elite player moving it through at a similar level to men's games. But when it comes down to young team building, you get there's a good tactical chess match ability thing about it where you kind of, as you said, Piper Window, we're moving her around a bit, trying to find the best position. And she's probably still trying to find, she's 18, she's still developing as a footballer, very, very much so, There's a lot of young players that were just, Lauren Arnell's just been, every year she's just getting this overload of young talent coming in, and she's trying to figure it out, and she's growing as a coach. And I think she's actually having a really good coaching year, just quietly. Figuring out some of the adjustments she's made in the last few weeks to try to change. The Kangaroos game a couple of years ago, we lose by 80 in the end. Well, I guess the rain came in and that, but it felt like a ominous game to start with. The Richmond one last week started really ominously, and then we build back into the game, and then this week to kind of take all those learnings. I heard learnings. I think it was Gemma actually. I think it was Gemma in the post match used learnings, which we haven't talked about for a while, but really glad for Gemma to pop that one out there. Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of learnings that have come from the last
Friend of the pod, Gemma.
Yeah. She yeah, you can see the learnings from the last couple of weeks coming into how we attacked this game in particular. And I really appreciate that from a fan perspective that, I mean, not to bring men's into it too much, but we have clearly a contentious relationship at times between fans, not us in particular, but some of the decisions at the coaching and whatnot, and or how we read what is going on in the coaching there. Just to actually have none of that happening here, it's just like, this is good. This is some really good growth as a coach, and a coach growing with her team, and as a coach only a couple of years removed from playing herself. So she's kind of got that she's played against a few of these players. I assume she would have played against Ange. I reckon they played against each other in a grand final probably when Brizzy won.
Yeah. I would have thought
Possibly her and Saint possibly played against them both, and just Juzzy as well. By the way, Juzzy's playing a 75th game this week against West Coast, which we'll talk about briefly later. But I just wanted to shout out. Actually, I had it in my notes and it came up organically then, just to say that Arnell. I know I actually don't think there's been too many questions, but people just wondering probably at the end of last year exactly, because last year felt like at times a stagnation, but it really was just sophomore blues as far as it's just the second year of a team that's really building with a specific approach to youth. So it wasn't gonna.
With the bigger win at the end of the season last year, we improved upon our first season anyway. So I think a lot of that criticism is just people who don't watch W and just see scores coming through. So
they're just waiting to jump
good,
on
good
board.
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll see you in year 5 when we're challenging,
Yeah.
Yeah, but we get to enjoy it all along the way. It was one of those games where we've mentioned it earlier in the W season. It was probably our other win. It was just heartwarming to see this improvement in real time.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, some of these adjustments that are needed to be made, positively impacting the structure of the team, positively impacting how we go about it. And then even the commentators and clearly the AFLW landscape outside is being commented about how we have improved a lot and we're challenging teams, and that's being noticed across the board, not just in our little bubble, which I thought it's come up several times recently. Mm-hmm. So it's a nice nod to what we're doing and where we're going. Because it looks like the core of quite a formidable team, but to be honest, if you get all those pieces right and get a bit more experience into a lot of these players, gel them even further. Again, I was really impressed with our defensive line. Like Borg, Emily Borg just continues to rise. She's already being spoken about in such a great light, again, in the commentary.
Their commentary really focusing
about how much of a gun.
Yeah. Every time Borg came near her, she was just like, oh, Borg, she's great. Yeah.
yeah. She's a great defender. And just on commentary, Ben Waterworth, great commentary by him. He really elevated the good moments of the game, and it got me up and about. I was watching it at 9 o'clock at night last night, but I'm just sitting on the couch, and Gemma Houghton's around the ball, and can she do it? Gemma's around the ball when Gemma's around the ball, and Emily Borg, she's a gun, and shots on goal, because obviously we had more shots on goal, and some of them were quite fashionable. It's just I thought the commentary really added to the spectacle, which is great. We've all watched games of football, and
there's an interesting parallel when James Brayshaw was getting some criticism.
I was just about to say that. Yeah. And it's just slapping you with a wet fish. That's pathetic.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to get too deep into it. I just wanted to say that
Well,
So then,
it is
yeah, and
a positive for AFLW that there is actually some good commentators getting around, because I've actually generally, not that I know them, too many of them by name, but there's a few of the former players that jump in there. Like, I can't remember who it was, but she
they're
was
very
talking.
well, like, they're the ones that they bring in are fairly well spoken,
Yeah, and they
considering that
have,
they're active players.
yeah, or they've just a year or two removed from playing, and they have some really good insight
Yeah,
against a lot of the players that they've played against for the last 5 years. They've got some really good insight at how they play, or even just some little in jokes. Like, I can't remember if it was this game or the Richmond one, where I think it might have been the Richmond one, because they were talking about Kirsty Lamb, who played in that one, and I think one of them was like, I think someone
an
was just
ex
like,
teammate.
it was an ex teammate. She's like, yeah, Kirsty sold that one a little bit. I know her. Like, it's just good
Yeah,
little
and
bits of
then
banter, and but
yeah,
well spoken, as you said.
unfortunately, yeah, I'm still getting to know the female commentary team.
Yeah, same.
But one of them also was talking about her days playing alongside Evanie O'Day
Yeah,
at Collingwood, and talking about, like, yeah, just how much of a fierce competitor she is, and how she wouldn't want to get in the way of her, and like, yeah. And then, yeah, hearing that kind of stuff too just elevates your investment in while you're watching it, and elevates
yeah,
kind of the goings on of the match. But just really enjoyable in context of the AFLW, our season, our team. Like, yeah, just a lot of things to take out from it. Matilda Schultz, like those, I think there was two clearances in
I was waiting
particular.
for when we could get to her, because I thought she had a great game. I was really really into. I
What?
knew when you were watching the replay you would have been enjoying, because she's just some of those little hiccups. Not that she had hiccups, like, she's fucking 19. She just was learnt. There was a little bit of those teething moments of how to use your body, and I think even one of the commentators actually brought up, like, just learning to use her body at the AFLW level, but how good she is already. I thought this was one of the. I mean, it's a short season, but one of the better games of the season, if not her best. Just in the fact that we won the game as well, and she was a big part of it.
Yeah. Well, like the first time that she took the ball out of the ruck and just like exploded outside of the stoppage, I was just like, fuck, yes. Like, because, yeah, she's just an Amazon warrior,
Mhm.
but a bit apprehensive to start this season.
Yeah,
Um,
which that Crows
but
game
then it
wasn't
was in that
great.
moment, you're just like, yes, more of that, because
Yeah,
you're capable of that. And then she did it again later in the match, and I was just like, yes, do that more.
yeah,
Trust back. It's about backing yourself, or
mhm.
herself specifically. Like, you're still young, yes, but you're so good already. And if you're in a matchup that you can exploit it 100%.
Yeah, and she's going to be in those more often than not, because
Yeah,
she's
she
a.
had another 93% time on ground in this game. She's doing so much work.
Mm,
Um, and she's obviously she looks pretty fucked by the final siren, but she's obviously, yeah, built up a good base coming up through juniors, and obviously being drafted in our system, like fitness base, that is, sorry,
yeah,
because she's spending most of the games on the ground. And she's everywhere, again, acting like another midfielder while being 183 centimeters, just towering over everyone else.
yeah, yeah. I want it to be amazing when she actually gets to, because I think she still doesn't. She could probably take a few more marks a game, but
Yes,
that's
but
about it.
yeah, whereas in the Richmond game, she took none. I think she had a couple
She had two in this
uh,
one,
in, in
and
this
whether
match.
actually watching back the game, I'd see that many opportunities. I think there's probably one I thought she could have taken, but I could even be thinking of the Richmond game, because again, it's been the same fucking week. So
There was one, I think it was a kick out of our 50 by Carlton,
uh-huh.
and it went up there, and Amelie Borg had drifted up to our flank.
Hmm.
And so in the end, it was Borg, a Carlton player, and then Schultz just came up from the back and just almost like Specky, but her long arms just went over the top, and she was
That's
that
right.
far from taking it. And then in the end, just through domino effect, ball ends up on the ground, and then she kind of looks up like, what just
Oh, yeah,
happened?
there was a bit of a
Like, you just
smile
got
there,
rocked.
wasn't it? I
Yeah,
think there was a bit of
yeah,
a smile in the end when once she realized it was Tildes, like just like
yeah.
laying across the top of her. It was like, oh, it's you that knocked me out. Okay, that's fine.
Mm.
um,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, right,
yeah.
right.
um, Before, did you have anything else game Cooper's Dark House shout out?
Pacific.
Yeah, anything Pacific? Yeah. Game wise, before we get to votes, I do have one more thing I want to talk about, but I thought that's different again to the game, so I just thought I'd put the platform there for you.
In the moment, I wish I provided more detail, but I've got O'Day tackle in the third quarter. I don't know what that means. Make of it what you will. I think it was a
Well,
chase down tackle or something like that.
she had a couple in that second half that I think that could have even been the one that I tweeted about because it was later in the game.
Yes,
I can't tell
yeah.
you exactly what it was, but speaking of what you were talking about commentary, I had my brother was sitting on the couch watching the game with me. And he just turns around to me at one point, like after an Ebony O'Day moment. And he goes, I went to school with her. And I just was like, he's having a like proud moment right now. He's just like, I know her. Like he's a Crows fan too.
Yeah,
So
you're
he
like, I
wasn't, yeah,
know.
like he's told me plenty of times, but he's just like, he's quite proud of that when it. So I was just like, yeah, no, I turned around to him and I just went, she's pretty fucking good too. So
Yeah.
I think I gave him some shit about being
One of her better games, definitely for the season.
yeah.
For
And not that she's
sure.
lowered her colors at all, but she actually really, really had a tangible impact on the result in the fact that her pressure at the back kind of helped build they were so terrorized by her at the back. Like early, I think Vesio got a win on her, but
Apart from that,
yeah,
yeah,
but she
blanketed
locked in
her, which
after,
again
yeah,
was commented on,
yeah,
which was great.
yeah, and so yeah, she's great. Yeah, I think it's one of probably her best game of the year. Wanted to commentate on just one thing that I love about the AFLW, singing the song on the ground after. But
Yeah, yeah.
even before that, there was some really good vibes. And again, I wish I'd been down there, but watching on TV, just the purple sky in the background as the sun was setting in that late sun, like Alberton sunsets are fucking wonderful. But as the song's playing over the PA before they actually sing it, I think it was like a couple of the players are just coming through, like, doing the like Frank the Tank, like singing
Yeah,
the
Alyssa
song.
Brooke was
Alyssa Brooke,
doing
that's
the
what,
fist
yeah,
pumps.
yeah, it's just like
Yeah.
just pure joy, and then obviously the singing the song on the ground. Like I remember being there for I think the Sydney win in 2022 was our first win at home there, and like I think we smashed them by 60 points or something
We
like that.
smashed
But
them.
yeah, standing on the outside and singing the song with them in the middle of the ground was just such a special moment. I love that a lot of teams. It seems like everyone does it, and I just think that's a really cool, unique AFLW thing. And long may it continue.
Yeah, that's it. Like
Long may it continue.
being a
Like,
new competition, they have an opportunity to create their own traditions, their own niches, and things like
yeah,
that. But yeah, so it's great. Like it's a bit of a wholesome aspect of it. Like obviously, if you're at the ground, you're involved in that in a way,
yeah,
which is great. Yeah, I look forward to more traditions kind of coming out of the AFLW as a whole, because it's brand new. There's space for it. It's not everything has to be a carbon copy of the men's competition.
yeah.
So
Apart
I like that aspect.
apart from the fixture, let's get closer to the men's competition on that. But
Absolutely. And then on the reverse way, the AFL men can carbon copy last touch out of bounds.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, there are certain things to match up in, but yeah, there's definitely some unique traditions that are really nice. And I mean, certainly, again, I can't talk about enough how good it is to have AFL competition at Alberton Oval. And
Albert said that was another thing. That was another thing. Like
yeah,
the boundary rider, I'm sorry, I've forgotten her name, but she was just standing in front of the precinct. And I was like, how fucking cool is this? Like, Alberton was lost to the world in that period of time where obviously the Magpies like aren't being televised on national TV, like Port Adelaide, sorry, are playing at Amy Stadium and then Adelaide Oval. But now Alberton's back on it's back on the TV, like in front of everyone's eyeballs. And the other thought that I had on that note is that I know that 50% of the state would absolutely fucking hate it.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that because much like their men's team, their women's team don't have a home ground to play at. So, yeah, I think it was pre-match. Is it Vander Hayden? I don't want to
Yeah,
do her any disrespect. I really just need to learn their names, but she was standing in front of the precinct, and I was like, I know where that is. That's Alberton. That's the
That's it.
precinct. That's
Yeah.
cool.
And even just seeing when you get that shot from probably the camera that's between the precinct and is the Foss
Williams family stand.
Yeah, yeah. There's that tower there. They've got the camera set up on. When you look across towards the MG High Performance Centre, it's just the big Port Adelaide logo, the big MG High Performance Centre logo.
Yeah.
Obviously the big screen as well. But just like clearly presenting this highly technologically new centre that we have that is
flashy,
the home of Port Adelaide, while the other mob is still trying to figure out.
And the fact that I know that they would desperately want a home ground, but they would just hate it so much that Alberton is back up in lights.
Yeah, and that history that we have there can't be replicated. Like, no matter when you eventually move into your home, that will be your home from circa 2026.
From that point on. Yeah.
It won't be 18. It won't be since 1880, and then obviously what was it, Fort Glanville or whatever in the 10 years prior. But we've had over 140 years at Alberton now. Like, that just can't. You can't buy that. You can't replicate that. You can't build it. You can't get government grants for it. It's just cultural, communal history, and now the women are just a new wonderful part of that, and the fact that now that is their home ground, and as you said, it's being broadcast out to the on Fox Footy every time you tune into a Port Adelaide W game at home. It's going to be the precinct or some bloke standing on the outer, or I don't know if the guy sits on his chair much anymore because I feel like it's blocked off a little bit by the stands, but just all those little quirks of Alberton there. And
it's introducing it to even more people outside of our state, which I love as well, because obviously maybe we played a preseason game this year for the men's comp in years gone by. It's always been spoken about, and like on footy analysis shows and like Trade Period in particular, talking about a player moving to Alberton rather than moving to Port Adelaide Football Club. And it's just, coincides. You can either say, how's he doing down at Alberton rather than how's he doing, or she, for Port Adelaide Football Club. Like, it goes hand in hand. And I absolutely love that.
Yeah. Just made me think of that Jason Horne-Francis video from a couple of weeks ago. It's just the burnout.
Go the fucking power.
Benefits of doing this at Alberton, eh? He didn't. Yeah, it's a beautiful part of the world, and Port Country just has such a place in my heart. Wonderful vibes. Just to round it back, just the song in the Oval, the purple skies, Alberton Oval, just the shots as the game was finishing, and obviously even just Gemma being interviewed out in the middle of it. It's just cool, like seeing a player interviewed out in the middle of the Alberton Oval after a win on national TV, or not national free to air, but national footy TV. Really cool. If there's nothing else, we should get to our votes and because it's going to be fun this week. Had a really difficult time with it. I actually forgot to note who did it last week, so I think I went first last week though. So I'm just going to let you go first. Regardless,
we did too.
And then
So I think I went first for Kangaroos and you went first for Richmond. So
perfect. Then you go first now.
Let's do it. Okay, couple honourable mentions. First of all, Maria Maloney just keeps on keeping on, and I couldn't put her in my votes. She probably deserved to be in there, but I had other things in mind. My other one is for Alyssa Brooke, who we touched on doing the fist pumps to the song. Obviously very raw, very fresh to the competition, of another one of our draftees. She's a lot taller than what I assumed she was. So obviously they're grooming her to be in a key defensive post as she moves forward. She's obviously not getting not around the ball that much, not getting a lot of the ball. But one thing I noticed was that if the ball was in the air in a contest with her and her direct opponent, her spoiling on the day was actually quite good. I don't think she got beaten in the air, which is fantastic. Now, annoyingly enough, champion data clearly don't send as many people to AFLW matches as they do to the men's games. So there's certain stat lines that don't get recorded, one of which being spoils. But she had 4 1%ers, which I'm just going to go out and say I think all of those 1%ers were spoils. And 4 1%ers is second to Ebony O'Day for Port Adelaide, who had 6. Just wanted to note, because I was watching it and I noticed that she hadn't been beaten in the air. 4 spoils, which was great. It means that she's getting in a good defensive position, a one-on-one. To be second to a much more experienced player in our team in terms of 1%ers, I thought was noteworthy for someone so raw, and look forward to how she develops moving forward.
She's one that kind of stuck out to me when I was watching, even though, like you said, not, stats sheet may not stand out, but she just, has a presence and aura about her, like already the way she goes about her game, which is pretty incredible for such a young player too.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on though, my 1 vote goes to Molly Brooksby. She keeps on keeping on from her, obviously standout game versus Richmond. She had 12 disposals, 6 of which were intercept possessions. One big highlight was that she went at 91% disposal efficiency. So when you put that into context, where we're going, 50% is probably your ground floor. To move it at 91 is just immaculate. Obviously didn't have as many possessions as the Richmond game, but for AFLW, if you're moving it at 91%, it's clearly making a positive impact on our team. She had 4 marks as well, which is another kind of key indicator that I know I am in particular looking at now. And I think she was probably up there with the stat leader in terms of marks with 4 265 meters gained and 4 rebound 50s. So
I think only Gemma beat her
another
for
good
marks.
Game by her. Pardon me?
I think only Gemma beat her for marks, which is 5 in my stats, but that could be wrong too.
Correct. You are.
Okay. Me saying
my
it could
2
be
votes
wrong
goes
is the fact that I do typo a little bit here and there, and I have to correct myself. So
No,
anyway,
you're right. Yeah, she's second to Gemma Houghton.
Yeah.
Not
a bad person to be second to.
No, not at all. Sandwiched in between Saint and Houghton in that regard. 2 votes goes to Matilda Schultz. Spoken about her just before. She had the 25 hit-outs, 11 disposals, 6 of which were contested. She went at 63%, which is good. 5 tackles of her own, and she had the 4 clearances. So, looking ahead, which I probably I've meant to bring up before, but can bring up after the votes. She looks to be, again, building into some great form where we're hopefully pushing for a finals berth this year. 3 votes goes to Ash Saint. Just continued on from her Richmond performance where it was noted by us that she was getting around the ball a bit more, I think by design. Clearly, chopping out in the ruck a bit more for her, which means she's around the ball, acting as another midfielder. Her good skills came to the fore. She was just, a really good game from her. You could tell when she did kick that goal, she was frustrated that she probably thought, and she probably did deserve at least the 2 goals won, if not the 3 goals.
Didn't she have
from her 3 shots?
Didn't she have 3 get smothered on snap? I feel like I'm just remembering back now, but it felt like she was snapping, or it just felt, or I might be thinking of someone different. I feel like she had a few shots where she just got smothered.
There was one passage of play, it was getting kind of smothered a lot. I don't know if it was her attempt on goal though.
I feel like she also had one touch that didn't actually, I'm not sure if it got called touch, but they don't do review, so I would have been interested to see.
Yeah, she was celebrating it as a goal. Yeah,
all the
and then
Carlton players were saying touched, but when I look back, unfortunately, you only get 1 or 2 replays because the game moves quick with the W. But I looked at it, I was just like, that's not conclusive for me. But yeah, not gonna
well,
complain
they
too
do
much.
have the bull chip technology, so I would
That's right.
assume that
Yeah,
if if it wasn't touched, the arc would have let them know. But yeah, who knows? Anyway, to
interesting. Yeah,
get onto her stats, she had 18 disposals, 13 of which were contested, which is awesome. 7 of which were intercept possessions.
mm.
I guess alluding to her efforts like further back, all over the ground. 1 goal, 2. She had 3 marks of her own, 2 clearances of her own, 5 score involvements, 4 tackles, 4 inside 50s, and 300 meters gained. So, just kind of signaled the importance of getting our good players into the game because we're, like we said in the last show, we're in the business of winning games of football. So yeah, getting her involved is going to go a long way to us winning games of football, which leads me to my 4 votes. Gemma Houghton, just an immense presence on the ground. 15 disposals, 9 of which were contested. She had the 2 goals too, probably deserved more than the 2 goals on the day. 6 scoring involvements in total, 5 marks, 2 of which were contested, and 248 meters gained. And then my best on ground, just back, she had a dip. She went from, I think, best on ground Kangaroos in my votes to 5th best on ground, and she's gone back to best on ground. Abby Darrick, 21 disposals, 14 of which were contested, 6 intercept possessions out of those, 7 tackles, 6 clearances, 5 score involvements, 2 goal assists, 7 inside 50s, 541 meters gain, and also 2 rebound 50s for shits and giggles. She's just an amazing player that we've picked up, and she just, always looks in control of her game, and we're all the better for having her around the ball.
Yeah, Abby Darrick's going to be a key part of whenever our first premiership finals, genuine finals push comes. She's going to be right in the fucking thick
and
of it.
Sinead Goody looks like a kind of a apprentice Abby Darrick, which is funny because Abby Darrick is still quite young in her own right.
Yeah, Sinead Goody. I've got a few honorable mentions. Sinead Goody's one of them. Interestingly enough, the first 3 of your votes are all my other honorable mentions. I couldn't get Brooksby, Tildes, and the one that really grinds my gears that I couldn't get in is Ash Saint, because I think she had an incredible game playing the role she did, but I couldn't get her in there.
I guess it goes to show how much of an even spread we had on the day.
It is. And we said off air before we even started recording again, just to peek behind the curtain, I said to you first, I said, votes were interesting this week in the good way. And we've done that a few times with the men's too, when you have such a good game. Those bottom, usually your best and second best are pretty obvious. Though we've had a few interesting ones there too. But yeah, when you get down to those other ones, it really starts getting into you're just trying to pick things. But I'll get into it. I had you. One of your honorable mentions was Maria Maloney. I popped her into my 1 vote spot. 9 tackles, led the team. She went at 62% efficiency with her 16 touches, which 11 of those contested. Almost 300 gained and 5 clearances. So I just thought, just a really, really another nice Maria Maloney game, and just a season that's quietly breaking out, is just showing that she's got a great future as a Port Adelaide player, and she's really a real key cog of unsung cog at times, but she's you just always see her, and running around with the number 9 on her back just looks good. I had to get I hummed and hawed about this one, and I almost put her into the 1 spot and pop Maloney up, but I just think an age profile comes into it a little bit for me. I thought Window.
You're a big one on age profile.
I just think when you take into account Piper Window being 18 and only in her 5th game, I just thought she was ever present for me. Obviously, the goal celebration does a lot for me too. Jumper pull.
I was going to say, it's endearing.
especially from someone who played at Glenelg. Like, just
Yeah,
get me,
yeah.
get me
It's a new age.
yeah, get me a former Glenelg player doing a jump pull on a Port Adelaide jumper on Alberton, and you might get into you might get into the votes. Um,
Excellent.
yeah. 8 contested in those 16 touches, which he's been had a fairly good run at that, I think. And yeah, as we mentioned earlier, she had the 325 meters gained, which is second best on ground. So she was elevating. Her game has grown pretty well even in the last few weeks. So I had to get her in there and reward her for what I thought was, and she really helped bring the vibes late in that game when we brought on that little late onslaught of goals to really actually, I think a deserved 35-point win that we had. My 3 votes, Ebony O'Day. We've talked about her a fair bit on this.
Yeah.
She was everywhere for me. I don't know. I noticed her, and she had 10 intercept possessions. She only had 9 disposals. As long as my stats are correct, she had 10 contested possessions. So
Yeah.
when you're playing a game where you're in that is just literally everything you're doing is that, and somehow in those every possession is contested game that she still went at 77%. Obviously, as we said, she playing a role in Vestia and playing a really tough. She was in a battle down back, but she somehow still
Yep.
disposed of the ball well. Was there everywhere. Every time Carlton maybe because it was a close game for a while because we did not get out to that lead until late.
Hmm.
So she was genuinely part of the battle. It kept Carlton at bay from any of their forays forward with their more disposals that they had. She was in amongst it along the line, likes of Borg, as you mentioned, Brooke with her spoils. Like there was just a real great defensive effort that we've touched on at times this year has been quite a hallmark of keeping us in some of these games or helping us build into these now 2 wins that we've had. So yeah,
Hmm.
Ebony O'Day, love her. My last 2 are the same as you after all that. Yeah, Gemma Houghton. Again, I said called her the barometer earlier. Love her and love everything she does. And then obviously Dowrick for the 5 votes. Yeah, she was clearly best on for me. I think that was the one thing I had in my notes straight away when I did it. When I wrote my 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I just put Abby's name in there straight away without even looking at the stats. And I was like, I'll figure the rest out later. I was pretty sure Gemma was going to be my second best, but once I looked at the stats, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think the three two ones of our votes really just shows because Saint I still don't feel good about having her out, but I don't know maybe I don't know who I would take out because I just find all of those had really tangible impacts on our result. Same with Tilds. I brought her up earlier. Said she was probably our best game of the year. So yeah, and I couldn't get her into the vote. So and Brooksby obviously nominated for Rising Star this week. Just it's incredible with the
Mm.
players that we're missing at the moment because again, Kirsty Lamb, All Australian that we traded in this year and has had built into the year quite nicely up until a concussion last week. Out of the side, Hannah Ewings, just an inactive member of the side. Hannah Dunn, not playing at the moment, inactive with pregnancy. And then obviously,
Yeah, right. Of
yeah,
course.
Janelle Cuthbertson out now as with
Indy
the ACL.
Tahu is
Yes,
also
who,
out.
God, and I can't believe I forgot because she was having a really good year up until when she did her ACL last year too.
Hmm.
So that's 5 players that, this time last year saying that, well, they're in your best 20, 22, 20, what is it? Positioning, sorry. Yeah,
21. Because they
yeah,
have there's 16 on field, but 5 on the bench.
yes, yeah. I was like picturing yeah. We're still learning, people. It's more like it's more the muscle memory for immediately going for a number from AFL, and then you go, it's not the same number as men's. But yeah, so we're missing it. There's a decent, um, you know, group of players there that we're missing, and we still put on a performance like that, and have, some players that could be pushing too. So it's I'm really, really, really impressed with that performance, and it kind of, West Coast who we have coming up this week on Saturday afternoon, 4:30 Saturday, obviously away. So for those over in Perth, get to it. Mineral Resources Park, which is a small part of our history, being that was where we played our first game of AFLW football,
Hmm.
where Gemma Houghton kicked our first goal in the competition. So there's a little bit of history there. I think it's probably the first time we played West Coast since then. I assume we didn't play them last year. So
I don't think so.
Yeah. So yeah, West Coast on Saturday afternoon. So if you're looking for something to watch on Saturday afternoon, or if you're over in Perth and can get there, go. You probably get it free with your membership still, I would imagine. Um, they're having an okay year, but kind of in a similar position to us. They do have 4 wins on the season, some good wins. But a few of their big wins have been against teams in the lower end of the ladder as well. So a real, again, kind of like the Freo game a few weeks back. I think it's a bit of a litmus test for us. Really intrigued to see how we go.
Yeah,
The first game, our first game over there is one that I still think we should have won, but umpires.
yeah, I do too.
Yeah, that was one that we had a couple goal lead at one point, and it just slipped away with some decisions and whatnot. But
I remember the umpiring being atrocious in that
yeah,
game.
man, I that's my main memory from the game. Obviously, actually a lot of good memories. Gemma kicking the goal, and obviously playing our first game. But it got to the end, towards the end there, and it was like, oh shit, we could win our first game. And then the umpiring just there were some decisions were made, and I did not agree with them. But yeah, really excited for that one. I don't have my. I don't know. I know there's. I don't know her name. There's a West Coast player that's playing really well at the moment. So they're in
Yeah.
decent.
Well,
They're in,
obviously led by Daisy Pierce as their new coach.
yes, yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. They're quite an yeah, they're a percentage off of third, but it's quite a big gap. The percentages are quite odd in W,
Mm,
just by the nature of how certain games play out and the gap in talent and teams at the mercy of an huge injury list. But yeah, it's you said a litmus test before. It's definitely that because over our last, what is it, 5 games now, we play the 2 teams that are in 7th and 8th in the next 5 weeks, but then we also play 14th, 17th, and 18th. So
mm,
there's an opportunity there to really make a crack at a finals berth if we continue in this fashion, particularly the game we played against Carlton and how we played in the latter stages of the Richmond and Kangaroos game for 4 quarters.
mm.
Yeah, we'll put ourselves in with a great shot of cracking the top 8. Yeah, obviously we don't want to get too far back, but I don't know how any other sides' fixtures play out. So at the end of the day, we've done well against teams in similar positions to us. I think this is just that extra level up because obviously West Coast are, in the 8 and playing quite well. But off the back of a good win against Carlton and getting all our pieces in the right place, yeah, they'll be going over there with a little bit of confidence, and I hope they make a great account of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was just looking at you've got Freo, Richmond, and the Crows all above West Coast on the same amount of points, but percentage better. And they're all
Mm.
teams that we've had decent, like Freo, we probably should have beaten. Richmond, apart from a quarter and a half, we actually probably statistically beat them. And the Crows were right in that showdown right up until the death. So, and they all have significantly better percentages than West Coast, which kind of percentage, as you said, percentage kind of.
We have a better percentage than West Coast.
Oh yeah, we do too. Yeah, 98 versus 96.4. Yeah. So, yeah, there's you can point to the performance on the weekend and performances over the season so far, and you look at West Coast have had some big wins, but they've been again against teams below us on the ladder as well. And yeah, if we can go over and have a good account of ourselves against West Coast, be great to steal a win over there. And then just a shout out, get it in your plans early. Alberton Oval Thursday night, October 10th. We play Collingwood on Thursday night footy, so I'm going to be there.
Yeah, who are struggling with injuries at the moment.
Yeah, so there's an opportunity for a win there, and it's Collingwood, so it's always good to beat them. Doesn't matter what day or how. It's a chance to beat Collingwood at Alberton. Let's go.
Hook it to my veins.
Yeah. So, but not looking ahead past West Coast. If we can get a win against West Coast this week, Collingwood, then suddenly we're 4 and 4.
4 and 4.
Yeah, because just these fucking round numbers are messing with my head.
It starts to even out after now, I think. I'm not sure, but
I hope so because it'll help my brain.
Oh, I spoke too soon. Week 6 is, yeah, it hurts my eyes. So we're still,
Got a little bit of time to get through.
Hawks play twice, Gold Coast play twice this week. So yeah, whatever, man. We've already had our 2-game week, so I think from now on, we just got 1 per week. So
Yeah,
that's all we really need to focus on.
yeah, it's exciting times anyway. You got like I said, nice little Saturday afternoon watch this week, and then as I said, just we'll obviously talk about review West Coast and briefly touch on Collingwood next week. But being that it is a Thursday night game, I just thought I'd get it out there now for anyone listening that's thinking you should get down to Alberton on Thursday night. I think unfortunately, the Socceroos played Adelaide that night too. But
you're kidding.
I'm club over country, baby. Port Adelaide, let's go.
Yeah. Well, if it was the Matildas playing, it would probably have more of a detrimental effect. So
yeah,
perhaps.
Yeah, and the Socceroos.
But yeah, I'm definitely interested in going. I hope a lot of other people can manage it. But like you said, first things first.
Yeah.
Away game this week. And any listeners in Perth, thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting, for one. But yeah, utilize your memberships or general admission tickets and go support the girls.
Yeah, regardless if you've got memberships or not, like it's pretty cheap to get in either way. So there's really no excuses. If you've got the time and you love Port Adelaide, get down there and support them. That's about it. We're not going for 3 hours this week. It's nice to just have one game to review instead of 3. Would have loved to be reviewing grand final, but the swings and roundabouts of life of being
maybe next year.
Yeah, but for now, it is all systems go on the AFLW season, and it's really a great time to be following them because they're starting to play a really nice brand of footy, and as we said, there's still a lot of growth to come with them. Don't expect it to always be like this, but you can see
that
why
will be the test.
Yeah. But you can see why they're so focused on this push, the way they're list building and progressing the way they are, because they can see the roots of something really special there with this young group of players and everything that's going on. So, yeah, get around them. I
agree.
It's fucking fun to watch. Well, until next week, Carn the Lady Pair.
Go Port, get the win.